See what I did there? Okay,
Progress.
so listen to the music and I'll then start introducing at the other end. Here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes, the storytelling show that features The Clearing, where all good questions come to get asked and all good stories come to be told, and where all my guests have two things in common. They're all creative individuals and all with an interesting story to tell. There are some lovely storytelling metaphors, a clearing, a tree, a juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, some alchemy, some gold, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, and a cake. So it's all to play for. So yes, welcome to the Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. Oh, yes, indeedy doody. I've even given myself a sort of count of 4 in my head before we got going there. So, ladies and Genminminmin, please welcome to the Good Listening To Show Clearing. Anna Farthing is in the clearing. Anna Farthing is a real cultural icon here within Bristol. If there's a cultural pie, if you don't mind me saying, Anna Farthing's probably either got her finger in it at the moment or it's been in the pie at some point. She's part of the fabric of Bristol life. She's an award-winning producer and consultant, curator of all things heritage, creative and cultural. She's responsible for almost, well, you should be a city benefactor almost, because anything that's been awesome in recent history, you've been part of curating what's going on there. So I'm extremely privileged because you're helping me on the path to this becoming the coolest podcast in Bristol. Not least because I get the glitterati like you to show up in my Zoom hole.
I think, Chris, you're a pretty big part of the Bristol story yourself. So,
Pish, well, thank you for blowing a bit of reciprocal smoke at me. And by the way, we've got history. I've known you for many, many years, and I have an immense and great fondness for you because whenever I've had a period of intransigence, I've always known that Anna Farthing has a contact book and an ideas head that's always there to help. And when I first got going, when I was sort of wibbling on with how can I go about making a short film, you were curating a project to do with slavery. And then you employed me as an actor to do a voiceover, and then you very kindly,
the Royal Navy, yeah.
And you very, very kindly said, look, you can turn up at the end and we'll do your film for you. Yes, I'll help you. And you helped me make my first ever short film, which was the Chris Grimes world famous washing machine impersonation, featuring 2 cycles, a Smalls wash,
and a teacup,
and coffee cup wibble.
Coffee cup wibble, yeah.
But thank you so much for letting me do that and tagging it onto a project that actually was more important than me wibbling on about my washing machine.
Well, I mean, once you've got the studio and the kit, might as well keep going.
Lovely. So you're extremely welcome. How's morale? What's your story of the day? I couldn't help the comedy of we're both slightly late here because you said my hairdryer's been on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, it is always slightly worrying when you think, oh, I'm going to do something. I'd better wash my hair. So I generally wash my hair and I dry it just upside down with the hairdryer. And I thought,
are you upside down or is the hairdryer upside down?
No, I'm upside down, and then I thought that smells a bit funny, and then I realised that there were flames coming out of it. So so the smoke alarm has gone off. The hairdryer is unplugged in a safe place, and my hair is still slightly damp.
Bless you. And did you trip switch any electricity at all? Did anything go off?
Yes, everything, which is why I'm slightly delayed because of Anyway, it's all fine.
No, and I said cultural icon and curator of all things awesome because you're one of the only people I know who does their hair specially for a podcast.
I'm sure everybody does it. They just don't admit that everything went wrong just before.
No, but I feel very chuffed and flattered. That means you have prepared, which is great. And also, we will do this as a film too, and we're doing this as a Facebook Live.
That's really scary. You didn't tell me that.
Well,
or maybe I wasn't paying attention. Probably that too.
Who knows? So listen, we're going to curate you through the lovely storytelling metaphors of the Good Listening To podcast. So there's going to be the clearing. We'll find out what that is in a minute. Then I arrive a bit waiting for Godot-esque with a tree in your clearing. Then I'll shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. That's where we've got the exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's some alchemy, some gold, a couple of random squirrels, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, and a cake. So it's absolutely all to play for, Ms. Anna Farthing.
Sounds like a perfect set of ingredients for anything, really. Ready,
What do
steady,
you think?
cook.
So I'll ask you a question you may not have been expecting at first. If we are, if we meet, and I don't know you, and I've known you for many, many years, but if somebody does that rather clunky thing and just turns to you and says, "Oh, hello, you look quite interesting. What do you do?" And
Oh God!
What's your favourite way of either answering or avoiding that question?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a cultural icon. It depends who it is. I think the funniest thing anybody else introduced me as, which I really think is quite good, is the lady who launches.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I like that because most of what I do is startups. So I start things up. I start up, I'll be somebody wants to do a thing and they go, "Oh, we don't really know how to start this up." And it might be something which involves, I don't know, it might be a festival like Bristol Festivals, like the Festivals Network, or a single festival like the Cary Grant Festival, which I did with Charlotte Crofts. Well, she did actually. This is Charlotte's project, but that was a classic. I can somebody give me a hand? I'll get involved. Launching things. Shed, National Museum of the Royal Navy.
You launched the Royal Navy. That's quite an accolade.
No, the National Museum of the Royal Navy. Marvellous thing about that is, you can have marching bands and all sorts. Yeah, so I suppose the lady who launches, because I tend to do things that haven't existed before.
I'm so happy I asked you that question, because I think you should absolutely nail that, the lady who launches, because it's yours. You own it.
And I really like doing it over lunch as well, so
Ladies who launch over lunch. Lovely. And by the way, sometimes outside of us, others looking in at what we do can tell us what we do. I had a very similar experience during the pandemic where I bumped into a friend on a push bike I had not seen for a while. His son, who turned into a man behind him, as we were about to squeak off, said to his dad, "Who was that?" And he said, "Chris Grimes." And he said, "What does he do?" And then, like your lady who launches, this lovely chap, Ben, said, "Oh, that's Chris. He's a motivational comedian." And then off.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on the logo of the Good Listening To podcast now, I've got, facilitator, coach, motivational comedian. Like you've got ladies, the lady who launches.
Yeah. So I tend to do launch projects. Or things where maybe an organisation's been going in a certain direction and they want to go in a different direction.
Yes.
So it might be something like, Chatsworth, been going for 500 years. Wonderful, fantastic team there who decided they wanted to do things slightly differently, and they wanted to review how they engage with the public and how they engage with the stories.
And it's not just Bristol. Other cities have been lucky to have you as well. I know you were in.
Yeah, I live here, but it's funny that you say I very rarely work here, because when all the big jobs come up to run something, I am not called. So that's fine. I don't mind.
You did a Philip Larkin Hull City of Culture in 2017 as well, I know.
So in Hull, that was really exciting. So I didn't know much about Philip Larkin. So I'd done quite a lot of people-based story stuff. So I did a festival about Paul Robeson. I did a festival about Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
And they said, and actually it all came, when I was doing my PhD, I got really interested in what are called slave narratives. So
yes,
stories written by enslaved people about their journey, often written with an amanuensis who might transcribe or work with somebody. And I was really interested in that relationship. So the day we did filming with you, I think we'd done some filming around that. Anyway,
did you say the word amanuensis then?
Yeah, somebody who writes something down for somebody else. Scribe.
Ooh, that is teaching us something new and cool as well. I love that. Say the word again.
I think it's amanuensis. I like those words that are like an anemone.
Beep, beep, biddy, beep, minnie, minnie, beep, biddy, beep.
No, life stories. I'm really interested in life stories and how life stories can inspire other people. So biographical stuff.
Yes.
So that's how I ended up doing the Larkin, because they. But I didn't know much about Larkin. I thought, oh, a poet, that'd be nice.
Yes.
You know, after doing a lot of slavery, Holocaust, and war, that would be fairly straightforward and gentle. Until I found out a bit more about his personal life and thought, that's why they wanted me to do it.
And by the way, yes, absolutely. Coming full circle, I did do a couple of monologues for you about slavery as a sort of first-hand account of being on a slave ship, I think it was. Then you allowed me to do my washing machine impression. Thank you.
Yours were the sort of 18th century sailors accounts, yeah.
So we are indeed blessed to have you in the clearing. Welcome to, Mrs. Culture, the lady who launches, which is fantastic. Anna Farthing.
It's interesting because so much of what I do is about storytelling, and yet I'm really nervous. Because I tell other people's stories.
Yes. And by the way, you've also been incredibly helpful over the years. Several times you have given me a nudge along the path of keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. And in fact, I know that we're talking sort of slightly on and off the record about how we can turn this into a theatre show as well. So you are indeed a lady who launches. And I've been sort of nudging at you to come to the clearing for quite a few months now.
I'm here.
Yeah, so, chase me. I've been chasing you around the city.
I don't think I said chase me, Chris.
Just to be clear, you didn't. Quite right.
I think I said, I don't think I can. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So we are here. Welcome aboard. And first of all, then, let's get you going. What is a clearing like for you, Anna Farthing, metaphorically or literally? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational and able to think?
The seaside. So I go to where I can see in thirds, ideally, the land, the sea and the sky.
Oh, so, like the Fawlty Towers Hotel. The land, the sea, the sky.
So 3 horizontal lines. I suppose. So and ideally, lots of sky, lots of sea, bit of land, maybe with a few groins. But where the sea meets the sky, and it's really just empty, and I can look at that for hours.
And now I've gone down a rabbit hole about Fawlty Towers. It probably could be Torquay, but maybe not.
It has been Torquay. So some of the most I seem to have done a lot of port cities and coastal towns. So most recently in Weston, working with the very lovely Fiona Matthews of Culture Weston, who you ought to talk to on this. And I go to Bournemouth a lot, where I've got family, and Hull, Portsmouth, Glasgow, Liverpool. Go out on the Wirral, you get that wonderful.
Yes.
I think it actually. Oh my goodness! I've just realised what it is. It may well be genetic, because my mum is from Southend and my dad is from Clacton.
Good grief! Did you know that I grew up in Southend between my being 11 and 19? I went to school in Southend.
You must have a chat with my mum about that.
Awesome. And by the way, Fiona Matthews also runs the Clevedon Theatre Shop, so Instant Wit have appeared there. So you're quite right. She's somebody else I should welcome to the clearing. But this is your moment in the sunshine.
I grew up in Southampton, which has double tides around the Isle of Wight, and I need to be near tidal water. Bristol, obviously, Bristol Channel's the greatest, one of the, I think it's the second largest tidal range in the world or something, I don't know. But I remember once I had a job in Leeds, and I felt really peculiar, and I went and sat by a canal because it was the only water I could find.
As people went hurling shopping trolleys in there, and motorbikes, that sort of detritus. Wonderful. Yes. So
the headspace, the clearing space, is always by tidal water, ideally with plenty of sky.
And it's very quintessentially English, the tidal scape you're talking about, because you mentioned groins as well. That's those lovely little protuberances into the sea that keep the sand there are what groins are. I know you knew that.
Those kinds of groins rather than the other kinds of groins, yeah.
Yes, I was proving I knew what a groin was, because you came up with that word that I'd never heard of before.
Amanuensis.
Thank you very much.
Everybody should have one.
I'm going to get one. I don't know wherever you get your amanuensis from. I'm going to get one. Yeah. Lovely. So we're here then. Yes, so we can get more specific then. So I'm going to arrive with a tree, a bit Waiting for Godot-esque, deliberately sort of existentially, to sort of shake your storytelling apples out now. So I know we're at a seascape, so you can pick exactly where it is if you like. So do you want to be specific with your geography?
In my imagination, or do I have to tell you?
Well, it'd be useful for the listeners if you told us where it was. You can just go quiet for the rest of the episode and go, oh, I wonder what she's thinking.
I think it's a blend, actually. I think it's probably no particular one. I've seen it. That. Oh, I know where it is. Oh. If you go down to Tintagel, there's a rock, and you can sit on this rock and you look out to sea, and it's so wide you can see the curvature of the earth.
I know the rock. I know Tintagel. Yes, I know the rock.
Go there. That's the one. That's the best one.
And gosh, that beach is incredibly tidal because the rocks totally disappear, don't they?
Yeah. But you sit on, I think it might even be called Arthur's Rock or something, but you sit on this kind of shelf, this shelf rock thing, and you look out and you can literally see the curvature of the earth. So yeah, we'll go there.
We'll go there. And by the way, I was down a rabbit hole. I realised I was just talking about Tremarwith Strand, so I apologise for that. But I'm now back where I should be, which is at Arthur's Rock in Tintagel. Very Mist of Avalon and Arthurian as well now, which is lovely. Okay, so we're going to be on the metaphorical and literal storytelling rock. How perfect. Anna Farthing. So this is where we're going to shake your tree, and you've been kind enough before we've spoken, even though I've chased you but not really been chasing you, to get you to think about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, which, borrowed from the film Up, previous listeners will have noted. Exactly. Squirrels. What never fails to distract you, whatever else is going on. And then a quirky or unusual fact about you, Anna Farthing, that couldn't know until you tell us. So up to the canopy of your trees on the Arthurian storytelling rock. How would you like to interpret the rustling of your canape?
How will I interpret the rustling of my canape?
Yeah, we're basically shaking the canopy of your tree.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yes. So if I make no sense, that you can say what?
I'd gone down party snacks, canapes. Sorry.
Okay, that's my fault. So 4 things that have shaped you, please.
Okay, so the first thing is music and movement. So now, children, find a space. I went to a progressive primary school where we didn't learn much grammar. Or anything like that, but everything was done through the arts. It was the 70s, early 70s. It was just the local primary school, and we did an awful lot of making things in clay, and there's lots of memories about that. But I think really the thing that really shaped me, really from the get-go, is music and movement. So it was completely normal to go into the hall several times a week, is in my memory of it, but that might not be the case. There would always be slightly, if you went in the morning, it was great. If you went in the afternoon, it'd be this sort of slight smear of mashed potato.
Yes, that smell we can all relate to, school lunches.
Yeah, but you'd go into the hall. This is King's Road Infant School, and we did music and movement, and the lady on the radio would say, imagine you're soaring a tree, and there'd be music, and you'd march to the music and so on. I didn't really realise how much that had shaped everything until much, much later. I was working with the Conservatoire for Dance and Drama, which is 8 dance and drama schools, and I wanted to do something for the Olympics, for the Cultural Olympiad in Weymouth, and there was a bit of a kind of ready, steady, cook mixture of, there was an arena film thing, and there was, what would you like to do with it? And I suddenly thought, music and movement's shaped everything. So from music and movement, dancing around in your vest and pants, freedom, physical freedom at school, rather than sitting at a desk doing fronted adverbials, whatever they are. I then had dancing lessons. The first one I don't remember, but we had red ballet shoes. That was really nice. That was next door to the school, in a village hall next to the primary school. And then I went to a lady called Mrs. Pyatt. And Mrs. Pyatt was sort of retired, and I don't know why, but I ended up having, maybe everybody else left. I don't know why, but I'd often end up in a room on my own with her, and she would say, "Oh, well, we'll we'll do the national dances of ancient Greece now, or so I ended up sort of once a week having quite intense dancing around lessons, and then I think she might have retired. I don't think I was with her for very long. And then I had dancing lessons with this amazing woman called Pearl Nicol. And the thing about our dancing lessons is that it was improvisation. All of this, yes, we learned technique and we learned to do, pliés and arabesques and all of that. But more than anything, what was so special about it is it was lie on the floor with your eyes closed, listen to the music, and when you're ready, get up and move to the music. So that's all the way through. And Pearl Nicol, makes me cry, was extraordinary. So there we are.
And I know dance has been so important to you because you've danced yourself happy in recent years as well, because there was a moment when you just went absolutely mad for the dancing. And I think that was a real, almost a factory default, well, not a factory default, a school default return to Mrs. Hyatt and the idea of lying on the floor and get up, dance, play, improvise. Love that. That's just...
Yeah.
Mrs. Hyatt. And then who was the person that just made you...
Pearl Nicol. So, but you're right. There was a period of my life where I stopped dancing.
And you're dancing now.
And that's not good. Yeah. And now my new, well, not new thing, but my latest thing is social dancing, partner dancing. So, swing dancing. I ended up by chance sharing an office with the amazing David Zilker, who runs Swing Dance Bristol, and I ended up going to a weekend and learning how to swing dance, and that was just incredible. That changed my life. And now I do any kind of dancing. I do.
In the same way you ended up with Mrs. Pyatt going, okay, dance. You ended up in an office with the man who ran swing dancing in Bristol. So I think whatever's meant for you didn't pass you by. It's all good. And
yeah. And I mean, I don't know whether... I mean, when I was a child, they didn't diagnose people with ADHD and all that kind of stuff. But I do remember when I was doing my PhD, there was all this stuff about different learning styles. And, there was, I can't remember what they are now. But one of them was physical movement. And I thought, aha!
I know about that. Yes.
Yeah, somebody's actually proven that this is a thing. But yeah, I'm quite three-dimensional and I have to move.
Yes, I've heard an adage which is "if in doubt, walk it out." But I think in your case, if in doubt, dance it out.
Yeah.
So it's a lovely sort of ongoing therapeutic movement, which is fantastic.
Yeah, because you discover things by moving and think them afterwards.
Yes.
I mean, when you're dancing with if you're dancing with somebody, particularly partner dancing, particularly improvised partner dancing like swing dancing, or I've started doing some bal folk as well, which is amazing, mazurkas and stuff. There's a sort of framework, but you're not dancing choreographed steps. It's call and response. You're dancing with somebody. It's a way of communicating. Dance is a way of communicating. And
so that's an awesome bit of initial shapage. So what else has shaped you?
Oh God, we've got to have more, haven't we? Sorry, I could talk about that for hours. Okay, what was the number 2? Oh yeah. So the other, so that's really my growing up bit. What shapes me into being an adult, and then as an adult, the biggest thing that shaped me is motherhood. So having children, having my children now are 22 and 25. But having my daughter changed everything completely, fundamentally, seismically, intergalactically, in every way. And I think really, for me, once that's there, once having children, everything revolves around them. Every decision is, okay, what's the right thing for the kids. I did work throughout when the children were younger, but I did a whole range of random things, and I had lodgers in the house as well, and I kept thinking, okay, how can I earn some money while being at home with children? So I wrote some things, I wrote films, and had lodgers and did some teaching, which as they got a little bit older, did teaching because it happened during the day. And that's really because I started off in theatre, and sort of fell into heritage because it suited the kids better.
And Heritage Films actually was the film company you're describing, wasn't it?
We did heritage films. It wasn't what it was called, but I did quite a lot of short films for heritage sites. But yeah, motherhood really. When you say what are the things that's changed you as an adult, that's the biggest thing that changed me.
Wonderful, rich stuff indeed. So we're still there. Anything else in the shapeage? You've got up to 2 more.
Oh gosh, okay. It's sort of slightly going backwards, but how I got to Bristol. So Bristol shaped me, right? Being in Bristol, working in, around, and with and through people in Bristol, Bristol's definitely shaped me. And I was thinking, how did that happen? And actually, I went to Southampton Technical College, so I went to a sixth form. There wasn't a sixth. My school didn't have a sixth form, so I went to Southampton Technical College, which was like sixth form, and there was this amazing teacher there called Roy Faithful, and God, that makes me cry as well. And he said, I think you should go to university. And it wasn't anything that had ever occurred to me or to my family, because that wasn't where wasn't part of our experience at all. And he encouraged me to fill in this thing called an UCA form, which I didn't know what that was. And by a series of coincidences, I ended up at Bristol University. And Bristol University, being at Bristol University and then being in Bristol, change was a huge change. And kind of has been for a very long time. Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the fact that you're very respectful and memorable about those that nudged you to open doors for you to get.
But I'm just going to fall apart. I got a glass of water. I didn't get tissues. I'm rubbish. Yeah. No, I think it's the people you meet along the way. They can open doors and set down ladders or not. I suppose because I'm very fortunate. I went to a very ordinary school, but had an extraordinary headmaster called Philip Oakshot, who I didn't realise till many years later he was a Quaker. I didn't know that then, but we didn't have assembly; we had forum, and again we had school discos and roller skate. I mean, he was extraordinary.
Headmaster on roller skates sounds very cool.
Yeah, no, I wasn't on roller skates. He let me borrow his headmaster's gown and roller skate down the corridor. I think he let me borrow it, or did I just take it? I'm not sure.
Oh, I love that. I hope you took it. That's good.
Yeah. No, so yeah, important people I think shape you. And Roy Faithful was the person that got me to Bristol University. I mean, what happened to Bristol University? Yeah, I met some interesting people. There was some great stuff, but it was Roy's intervention that unlocked my future.
Yes.
At that point.
What's really profound is almost one iconic individual in each phase of your shaping so far.
Yeah.
Which is lovely in terms of communication skills, the rule of 3. Lovely stuff.
Is it? Oh, good.
You've got a fourth shapeage if you want, or we can go on to inspiration.
Okay, yeah, no, the fourth thing is the pandemic. I think it's shaped lots of people probably. But that first lockdown, I was completely alone. It was really hard. I learned an awful lot about myself. I learned where my resilience came from, and funnily enough, of course, one of the ways I survived it is I danced every day. I put the radio on, and I danced.
That's lovely, and similarly, very relatable. This whole idea, the good listening to, has come about as a result of the pandemic. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I wouldn't have even had the idea, and it did come out of a place of adversity, actually. So that's very relatable, and I'm very happy that you managed to dance every day.
The other thing I think, the other thing that came from the pandemic, is I really learned who was there. And a group of old friends from Bristol University, people who did student drama together. We started reading plays every Saturday night, new plays, new writing, old writing. And we're still going 2 years later every Saturday night. Players. And that has more recently, the pandemic shaped me in many ways, but Players really is the most extraordinary thing, again, about a group of people coming together to support each other in a creative endeavour. And it's fairly improvised. I mean, we decide what we're doing, we cast it on a Thursday, we read it on a Saturday. Everybody's sort of more or less sight reading. We have a quick squiz through. But
I like that, a quick squiz through.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. And that's, again, I suppose, if we're talking about names, so Mark Ravenhill and I have been friends for many, many years, and we cooked that up as a way of getting through the pandemic. And so sometimes those people don't even need to be on hand, those kind of people who can really give you that anchor.
Lovely shapage, if I may say, Miss Farthing. Lovely. So now we're on to 3 things that inspire you. And if there's any overlap, don't worry, but it's 3 things that inspire you next.
So, sort of going back to the beginning, I always get inspiration from nature. So, particularly the sea, particularly tidal water, but particularly the changes of the tides. So waves, changing of tides, the moon, the way that things, it's like, because when everything is a bit hard or feeling too much, those nature cycles.
Yes.
And my new thing is dawn. I've always been into sunset, but I've never been very good at getting up in the morning. But I'm now much better at sunrise as well. Sunrise is amazing.
Very good. So your biorhythms have changed too, and you're embracing the dawn now as well.
Yeah. So those rhythms, I think. So what inspires me is those natural rhythms. That would be the first thing. The second thing, the second huge thing, is the women in my family and ancestry. So my mother, her 4 sisters, my 2 grandmothers. My 2 grandmothers both ended up, for various reasons, on their own, trying to bring up their kids in, a time before the welfare state. They weren't blessed with resources. They weren't, they didn't have family that could bail them out or anything like that. And in Southend and Clacton, although they never met, I don't know. No, they must have met, but I mean, they didn't know each other then. They were both phenomenally resourceful.
We're going back to the phenomenon.
Phenomenon, yeah. So I draw inspiration from Nanny Gladys and Nanny Hilda.
Oh, great, awesome granny names. I love that.
Hilda Winifred, actually. Nanny Gladys and Hilda Winifred. And then I draw huge inspiration from my mum and her 4 sisters, all of whom are forces to be reckoned with.
Shall we say? Yes.
Yeah, but they're incredible.
It's sounding very Chekhovian and epic, because it made me think of 3 sisters, obviously, but there's more. There's 4. They just keep on giving. And a strong through line in your DNA of obviously strong women who are survivors, and they'll dance their way through.
Yeah, and they're all dancers, actually, in their own way. I mean, the latest wedding we had, which was my niece, the dancing, I mean, some people say, oh, dance like nobody's watching. In my family, everybody dances like everybody's watching. I mean, they're totally going for it. My amazing niece, Emily, danced until she trashed her wedding dress. Everybody was dancing. The elderly ladies were shaking themselves, and it was just incredible. So, yeah.
So your ancestry knew how to dance. You knew how to boogie, baby. That's good. Very good.
Yeah. And, the third thing that inspires me is seeds. It's incredible if you think about it. That a tiny weeny seed can be, you know, I mean, whatever, tomato plants or something. But that thing about an acorn can make an oak.
Yes, and the seeds of any creative endeavour. I'm there. I'm thinking, yes, you've got to plant seeds and tend them carefully, and out of seeds,
So I collect seeds, which is ridiculous, really, and I also swap seeds with friends. So few friends, we collect seeds and we'll parcel them up in a little envelope and post them to each other. And there's something just extraordinary about seeds. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm inspired by seeds. When in doubt, go to Wilko, buy some seeds, even if you don't plant them.
So you're just spreading a perpetual meadow, because you're scattering them to the postal services, and scattering meadows.
But yeah, seeds are just amazing. Yeah, seeds are really inspiring.
Great answer.
And sometimes you don't know what you've got as well. So sometimes you collect seeds and you think, I don't know what these were.
Yes.
The only way to find out is to plant them.
Oh, they're marijuana plants. You don't mean that.
No. No, but you don't know when you plant them whether, they're going to turn into, what they're going to turn into.
Yes, the surprise is all. Spontaneity, surprise, creativity, it's all there.
Yeah. But you do have to actually plant them and tend them to find out what they're going to be. Otherwise, they're just...
But they can be very dormant with potential, brimming and charged with potential. You don't know what you do till you plunge them in the ground. Yeah. Wonderful. Yes, so that could be the end of your inspiration. This is all very inspirational, so it's all good.
Yeah, so those are the three inspirations, I think. The kind of rhythms of nature, the phenomenal ancestry of women that I will never live up to, ever.
Oh, pish and tush, madam, pish and tush. And by the way, I'm thrilled now because we're at the point of squirrels, two things that never fail to grab your attention. What are these shiny things that always distract you, Anna Farthing?
I find it really difficult to shut out conversations. So other people's conversations, I'm rubbish in an open. I would never be able to work in an open plan office, So little bits of conversation, snippets of conversation, never fail to distract me and attract my attention.
Lovely. That's really a good listener right there.
Yeah,
your ear holes are always on.
Needs medicating.
Yes.
The other thing which I'm having to learn to ignore, especially at the moment, is injustice and abuses of power.
Yes.
So I find that really difficult to ignore. I blame Philip Oakshot. We go back to at my secondary school. School motto was "Fight for the Truth," and he took it quite seriously. But the trouble is, if you're trying to live in a moral way in an immoral world in which, from the very top of the leadership of the country is immoral and untruthful, it can be really tiring. So although I am constantly distracted by injustice and abuses of power and dishonesty, I'm having to learn to ignore it, because otherwise it's going to make me ill.
Yeah, completely relatable, and that sense of justice pulling you towards, always there, and the fact you curate so much stuff, you're after the big reveal, I think, and making sure that it's anchored to integrity.
Yeah, and I think I'm very fortunate with the people that I work with in that there's no bullshit. I mean, people do their best. We try to do our best. Sometimes we mess things up. That's fine, as long as everybody's catching everybody. As long as everybody's trying to do their best, that's okay. But the only things that have ever caused real harm in my life are lies.
Yes.
When the Prime Minister is lying to Parliament, that is also a bit of a problem. So yeah, I have a bit of an issue with that, and I find it difficult to not be distracted by it. So I'm trying not to be
sort of systemic injustice which is macro and micro, because I know in our day-to-day lives we can knock up against lies, injustice, but then epically on a sort of national, international, or even with your children's influence, intergalactic scale, there is injustice to be fought.
Yeah, and everybody makes mistakes. That's fine. People, of course, we're all human. But when people defend it as if it's okay, that I find that quite difficult to stomach.
And what was the school motto again? Because that is
fight for the truth. Fight for the truth. Ah!
On a pair of roller skates from a stolen headmasterly gown. I love that. Okay, a quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know until you tell us.
I can't drink tea. It makes me sick.
Ooh. With or without milk, just tea. You just can't do it.
You can't drink tea. When I was a teenager, a friend of mine had an accident and took the end of her finger off. We were just the two of us out together, and I had to take her into hospital. And I was, while my friend was having her finger stuck back on, they said, "Oh, they probably hot sweet tea." I was probably in shock. And I had this tea and I just threw it up everywhere, and I cannot drink tea. I can't even stand the smell of it.
So you're a lady who launches at lunch, but you can't do high tea. I like that.
Well, I drink far too much coffee, so that's fine.
Okay. And I'm hoping you're not averse to a bit of cake, because that's coming up later. So I think we've now shaken your tree. And forgive me if I get a slight lick on, because I'm trying to curate a conversation for UK Health Radio. It's about 45 to 50 minutes. That we're doing fine. And then I'll do a bit of a bolt on, which can then come into the Buzzsprout space. La-di-blah. So now we're going to stay in the clearing, move away from your tree. And let's talk about alchemy and gold now. When you're at purpose and in flow, Anna Farthing, cultural curator of all things awesome, what are you happiest doing in what you reveal to the world?
So, how do I think about this? So the alchemy happens in a room with people creating something that doesn't yet exist. So, at the beginning of, right at the beginning, that was music and movement. All there was in that room was children in their vests and the smell of mashed potato. But we created imaginary worlds. Then when I was working in theatre, in the rehearsal room, you've got a bunch of people and some imagination, and you're making something that doesn't exist.
Yes.
And it's the same, really, if it's a festival or it's an exhibition or it's an arts programme in a hospital or... Yep. Whatever it is, and I think that's the thing about the launching is you're starting with nothing, really. Nothing actually exists, and you create something that then exists.
Alchemy to gold, right there, absolutely.
So the alchemy to gold, right there, and the gold, what exists. I was trying to work this out because obviously each thing is different. It might be a film, it might be an exhibition, it might be a performance, it might be a program of work, it might be a newspaper. As people say, what do you make? And I go, well, anything really. I think the thing that is being made is a way of bringing people together. So it might be a show, or it might be a really big casserole. I love getting the big dishes out. So the thing that is being made is something that brings people together.
A casserole, a cultural casserole. I love that. If I get a bit of a lick on, we can keep going beyond, but I'm just curating part one, which is the 45 to 50 minute conversation. So if I may award you with a cake now for gracing us with your presence here in the Good Listening to Clearing. Do you like cake, Miss Farthing, at all?
So long as it is gluten-free, yes.
Ah, lovely. So you've got a gluten-free cake. Thank you. Any particular flavour?
My favourite would be orange and almond, which is basically ground almonds, oranges and eggs. And some sugar.
So now with your orange and almond cake, you're going to put a cherry on the cake. And this is now, what advice might you offer to a younger version of yourself? What's a favourite inspirational quote that's always given you succour and pulled you towards your future? And then this is where Shakespeare comes in, inspired by all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. Anna Farthing, how legacy would you most like to be remembered?
You might have to ask me those again. So a couple of things that people. What the funny thing that somebody told me, I assisted a director called Francesca Zambello. She's an amazing tour de force opera director, and we were working on Tosca at Earl's Court, and I was very junior, and I said, "Oh, Francesca, please, could you just tell me what's your top tip? What's the one thing I really need to know?" And she said, "Always wear a red sweater. They need to know where you are." So,
and by the way, bless you, for those watching as well as listening, Anna is sitting here in a red sweater. We need to see where you are.
But the red sweater is, I think the metaphor of that is, if you're supposed to be leading something, you need to be visible.
Yes. And by the way, used to such extraordinary icon effect is the Steven Spielberg film Schindler's List, where it's the girl in the red coat.
Yeah.
So yes, so I love that advice. Just give us her impression again. That was just beautiful.
I mean, I haven't spoken to her for many, many years. I hope that she would not be offended. But she was very busy. We were really busy doing this Tosca at Earl's Court. The woman playing Tosca had been injured. We had a new Tosca. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Always wear a red sweater. They need to know where you are.
Love that.
So that was hers. I think my tip to my former self would be, don't put your own ambitions on hold for somebody else's. If you're in a partnership where you share your ambitions and you either have one shared endeavour or you support each other in your shared endeavours, but I would certainly say to my kids, and I would say to any other young people, don't put your life on hold for somebody else, because
follow your own path. Yeah
you might think that that's going to be a good investment, but you'll never know. So that would be one thing. Share an ambition or do your own, but don't put your life on hold for somebody else's. The big cherry on the cake is that really for a sustainable economy, for a sustainable planet, for a sustainable humanity, for sustainability really, creation is much more important than consumption. We need to create things, we need to create solutions, we need to create better with what we've got, and stop consuming. So be more creation, less consumption.
And finally, the Shakespeare. How would you, when all is said and done, most like to be remembered?
What would I put on a tombstone? She made things happen.
She launched cool stuff. The lady who launched, she made things happen.
Yeah.
So just in case, this could be the end of the UK Health Radio part, in which case, thank you very much indeed. Good night. But where can we find out more about you? I did myself an edit point. Did you hear there, dear? So where can we find out more about Anna Farthing on the interweb, please?
Well, I don't have a website. It's something I probably ought to do. But on Twitter, I'm Farthing Harvest. I do LinkedIn, I suppose.
Because your love of seeds, by the way, that's why you're a Farthing Harvest. I know Harvester Films was the film company, but Farthing Harvest, I'm thinking of the sort of spreading the seeds in the meadow. Bless you.
Yeah, well, I think every day you should plant a seed, tend the shoot, and pick the fruit. So every day you plant the seed, plant a seed. Every day you tend your shoots, you do the stuff that you need to do, and try and pick the fruit, try and enjoy it, try and kind of harvest and share. I mean, if you pick a fruit, you share it. I mean, a pineapple's a bit too big for one, isn't it? So, yeah.
Lovely. And thank you so much for gracing us with your presence here in the Good Listening To show. As this has been your moment in the sunshine, Anna Farthing, is there anything else that you'd like to say as a result of being here?
No, just thank you so much. I was really nervous about how this was going to go because I thought I would probably get upset, and I did. But it's all right. It's great. And I think you've done a great thing making this. You've done many great things, Chris, but you you have done an amazing thing creating this thing, and I hope that I hope it just grows and grows, because giving people a space to think and to talk, which isn't about just reacting and picking fights, is going to be so important.
So you've been listening to the delight that is Anna Farthing. I've been Chris Grimes. This has been the good listening to, the story behind your story show. And thank you very much indeed. And until next time, good night.